Isaiah finished, he didn't end with flourish, he ended with truth, letting the final chord hang until it dissolved into the stunned air, and for a long second, no one clapped, not because they didn't want to, but because they didn't know how to re-enter a world where that music no longer existed. And then applause erupted, not polite, not social, but thunderous, messy, human, and Isaiah stood, nodded once, and began to walk away, because for him, the music was never about applause. And Evan, red-faced and shaken, shouted after him about the car, about the deal, and Isaiah turned, looked at the air with eyes that held no anger, only exhaustion, and said quietly that he didn't need a car. He needed a chance, and that line, caught on dozens of phones, went viral within hours, sparking debates across America about talent, homelessness, racism, and the invisible cost of pride. And as the story spread, journalists dug deeper, uncovering Isaiah's past, the awards he'd won, the contracts he'd lost, the mentor who'd exploited him, the injury that pushed him toward addiction, and the system that had no safety net once he fell. And public opinion turned sharply, not just against Evan, but against the culture that made his mockery feel normal. And under pressure, Marcus Caldwell stepped in, not to protect his son's image, but to control the damage, offering Isaiah a settlement, a quiet deal, money in exchange for silence. But Isaiah refused again, because he had spent too many years, invisible to be bought back into quiet, and instead he accepted an invitation from the academy itself, whose board, shamed and inspired, offered him a residency, a place to teach, to play, to rebuild. And the twist no one expected came when Evan, humiliated and haunted, showed up unannounced to Isaiah's first class, standing in the back like a child. And when Isaiah finished playing and noticed him, he didn't throw him out. He invited him forward, asked him to sit, asked him to listen, and in that moment the power shifted. Because Evan realized that privilege had given him access, but not depth, resources, but not resilience. And over weeks, as Isaiah taught students who finally saw him, not as a symbol, but as a master, Evan kept coming back, volunteering quietly, until one night he confessed to Isaiah that the dare had been planned as content, as branding, as another win in a life built on shortcuts. And Isaiah listened, then told him the truth, that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And that mocking what you don't understand doesn't make you strong, it makes you small. And the final twist came months later at a sold-out benefit concert headlined by Isaiah King, when he took the stage, not in borrowed clothes, but in a simple suit, and announced that the proceeds would fund a program for homeless artists, musicians, and creatives across America, because losing your home shouldn't mean losing your gift. And when he invited Evan on stage, not to play, but to Evan publicly apologized, not with PR polish, but with visible humility, admitting that one careless moment had taught him more than a lifetime of comfort ever had. And as Isaiah closed the night with the same melody he had played on the street, now backed by an orchestra, the camera cut to faces in the crowd, young, old, rich, poor, united by the realization that greatness doesn't ask for permission and dignity doesn't come from wealth. And the story that began with mockery ended with redemption, not because a car was given, but because respect was earned. And somewhere in America that night, someone sleeping rough watched the clip and remembered they were more than their circumstances. And somewhere else, someone with everything realized they had been blind. And if this story moved you, challenged you, or made you see the world differently, don't let it end here. Subscribe now, because every story we share is a reminder that the next legend might be standing right in front of us, waiting not for charity, but for a chance. If you believe talent has an address, a skin color, or a bank balance, stop scrolling right now, because this story will shatter everything you think you know about success in America. And if you want more powerful, cinematic stories that hit you right in the heart and flip the script on prejudice, smash that subscribe button right now and stay with us, because this one begins with a laugh, a dare, and a promise that sounded like a joke. Play it and I'll give you a car. And ends with silence so loud it changed lives forever. Because on a bright California afternoon outside a Glass and Steel Music Academy, funded by old money and guarded by gates that screamed exclusion, the heir to a billion-dollar empire stood surrounded by friends, cameras, and confidence, mocking a black homeless man whose clothes hung loose, whose beard was streaked with gray, and whose hands were rough from sleeping on concrete. And when the heir, gold watch flashing, voice dripping with entitlement, tossed out that challenge in front of everyone, he expected laughter, humiliation, a viral clip of superiority. Not the moment that would follow him for the rest of his life, because the man he mocked was named Isaiah King, though no one there knew it. And certainly no one knew that those scarred hands once commanded concert halls, that those tired eyes had once read symphonies the way others read road signs, that before addiction, betrayal, and a cruel chain of coincidences dragged him down, Isaiah had been a prodigy, the kind professors whispered about with reverence, the kind orchestras waited years to book, and as the heir, Evan Caldwell, son of tech titan Marcus Caldwell, laughed and gestured toward the grand piano placed outdoors for a promotional stunt. Isaiah didn't rush forward, didn't argue, didn't beg. He simply stood still as memories flooded him. His mother humming spirituals in a cramped apartment in Detroit, his first upright piano with chipped keys, the blunt trailership letter that once promised escape, the night he chose a drink over a rehearsal, the slow collapse of everything he loved. And when the crowd jeered and Evan repeated the offer louder, promising a brand new luxury car if the bum could play anything worth hearing, Isaiah finally moved, each step toward the piano measured, heavy, as if he were walking not across concrete but across decades of regret. And when he sat, the crowd expected chaos, wrong notes, banging keys, embarrassment. But what came instead was silence, a silence so pure it pulled phones down and closed mouths, and then a single note, soft and deliberate, followed by another and another, until a melody began to unfold that didn't belong to any single genre but to a lifetime, weaving blues and classical gospel and jazz, pain and hope. And as Isaiah played, the air changed, because this wasn't performance, it was confession. It was survival translated into sound. It was a man telling his story without asking permission. And Evan's smile faded as the notes grew more complex, more commanding, until even trained ears among the academy students realized they were witnessing mastery, not luck, not mimicry, but the kind of deep musical intelligence that can't be faked. And Isaiah's fingers moved with a confidence that mocked every assumption made about him minutes earlier. And people who had come to laugh now stood frozen, some with tears streaming down their faces without knowing why, because the music had reached places words never could. And halfway through, Isaiah shifted keys and tempo, introducing a theme so haunting that an elderly professor in the crowd whispered, "That's impossible," recognizing a composition believed lost after a fire decades ago, a piece written by a young prodigy who had vanished from the scene, a prodigy named Isaiah King. And as the realization spread like electricity, Evan felt something new crawl up his spine, not fear, but exposure, because the narrative he controlled was slipping away. And when,